Hey folks, Tim here. Thanks for checking out the show. A little disclaimer before this episode. We had some technical difficulties that gave us some pretty poor audio quality, and we did try to clean it up as best we could, but what you're about to listen to is the best we could get it. If poor audio quality is an issue for you in a podcast episode, you may want to skip this one, but we hope you'll give it a listen and still enjoy the content. Thanks so much for joining us here, and we'll see you next week. Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for joining us, hanging out, having a beer, getting some beer news conversation, tidbits, drama, rumors. I think all of that, right? Speculation, all of that good stuff. I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little tired. I stayed up a little late last night, but I'm all right. Yeah.
Okay. You going to make it through?
Yeah. I drank a lot of coffee today. I'm a little jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a bit.
I had a day a couple days ago. I was on like my third cup and I was still wanting coffee. And I'm typically a 2-cup kind of guy. But, I got to that third one, and before I went to the fourth, I'm like, I don't need any more caffeine. So I do have I ran out of coffee and bought some really fresh coffee, and I've got some Counterculture Big Trouble, and I love those particular beans, and it's really fresh, and so it's awesome to drink. Honestly, it's I want to drink more of it, not even because I'm tired, just because it tastes so dang good. So I love fresh coffee, and I've got some, and it's wonderful, Tim. It's wonderful. Just more and more and more coffee, all the caffeine. Nate, how you doing, sir?
I feel like a broken record because every week I just say I'm tired, but I am tired. I also stayed up a little bit late last night, and I'm running on energy drinks. That is my caffeine of poison.
Okay. Well, you got to do
caffeine of poison.
Caffeine of poison.
Caffeine of choice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Either one. Poison of choice.
Whatever.
Caffeine of choice. He did say he's tired, so the fact that he mucked it up, that he's already set an excuse for that, so it's built in.
I did have work at 3:30 this morning, so
yeah. It's an early time to get working. Well, guys, let's talk about what we are sipping on this week. Brian, what you drinking?
So my pregame, and I'm actually still working on it. And I'm trying to continue to support the Asheville breweries because I know they're still having a rough time getting back to where they were, and it's going to take them a while. But I am finishing off my pregame, which is a High Wire Brewing's Leisure Time Lager, and honestly, some days it feels like this is the only leisure time I get is drinking a lager. But just good old American lager, really enjoyable, nice, crisp, light. Exactly what you're looking for in a pregame beer. I will be following this up with a Schlafly Dunkel Lager, which is a Munich Dunkel. I'm looking forward to that. Buddy Ken gave me this beer, and he brought it back from a Breweriana trip that he took. He brought this, so I'm like, oh, sweet. I don't get Schlafly stuff very often, so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And after that, I will be getting into a Creature Comforts Winter, which is a cold red ale. So I guess a cold IPA? Or cold red IPA. Yeah, cold red IPA, not ale.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess a cold IPA that happens to be red. Also
both of those things are true. Yeah. Okay.
So that is what I'm having, Tim.
Good stuff. Nate, what you getting into?
So starting off from Hop Butcher, I'm drinking their Lord Galactopus, which is a Mosaic, a Galaxy hopped double New England IPA. Really tasty. It's got some really nice citrus fruit flavors in it. And then for dessert, from Monday Night Brewing, and I'm rocking their t-shirt tonight, I've got the Seven Deadly Stouts release from a couple years ago. And this is a beer that I just always enjoy cracking open because it is big, it's boozy, it's got 7 different spirit barrel-aged beers blended together for flavor, and it's just a really incredible, nice beer.
Is that the OG release?
Or? Nope, this is version 2. So this came out in just about 2 years ago to the month.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, I got a care package this week, so I'm sipping through. I got some brews from Blue Point and Montauk, and I figured I'm close enough to October to get this one out of the way. So I've got a Blue Point Oktoberfest that I'm sipping on here. I figure I can squeeze one more. Does seasonal creep apply the other direction?
It's seasonal lag, Tim.
It's seasonal lag.
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
It lags on. That's been
the
my
old
term for
creepy lag there.
I like to fight back against the creep with lag. I still have a couple of cans of Summerfest, and I'm definitely going to be drinking those in this month and next. just
Tim,
to be difficult.
Tim, it's seasonal creep for next year, so you are 11 months
I'm
out.
way ahead. If we're gonna,
Oktoberfest.
Right. If you're gonna do seasonal creep, do it right, man.
Yeah.
Do it right.
Admit.
Well, good stuff, guys. Awesome. Well, we've got a little, we call them extracurriculars, stuff that may not be exactly beer related, but craft beer adjacent, things that may interest craft beer drinkers. So, absinthe and root beer. What is that all about?
Yeah, it's something I came across online. I don't know if I shared it on social media, but I saw it there. And I guess the official term for it is by the creator, the root of all evil. But yeah, it's a combination that sounds weird, but tastes unexpectedly good, which is a phrase I kept running into it as I was Googling to find out what the heck it was all about. Yeah, it was officially invented by St. George Spirits back in 2007, and it's pretty straightforward. It's 1 ounce of absinthe. The official recipe calls for a St. George absinthe vert, which I guess that's green, right, in French, and 2 to 3 ounces of root beer. And you should make sure you get a good root beer. This is going to be key. You pour the absinthe into a glass filled with ice, and you top it off with your good quality root beer. You let the absinthe loosh, I think is how you pronounce it. It turns milky. Like if you've ever dropped water into absinthe, it gets opalescent. So it does that same kind of thing in the root beer. It turns a little gray. It looks like you might have poured a little creamer in it. And but if you're in a hurry, you can always stir it a little bit and get it cloudy that way. If you got to get your ratios right. If you don't have enough absinthe in it, it will not loosh. I think it's great. I think it really is unexpectedly good. It got me thinking, maybe root beer would work as a mixer for other things, some Amaros or something like that. Maybe they would work well because I don't drink a lot of root beer. I like it. I just don't. And it's interesting to think of it as a mixer. So I've never done that. Have you guys tried this yet? I know I brought it up before to both of you.
No. But I could see that if you dig, absinthe and that, I could see the herbal qualities of that playing well with root beer.
Kind of herbal and anisey, and it does actually do a pretty good job. I finished off a really old bottle of absinthe because I don't drink absinthe very often either.
Mm-hmm.
But I just happen to have a few laying around. But it works. It's surprisingly good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It really works.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah, loosh. That's a new word for me for sure. So that sounds. Is it a fancy cocktail term, Brian?
I have only ever heard it used in reference to absinthe. I don't know why. I think absinthe is the only spirit I've ever seen that actually does that weird color changing thing when you add water to it. And I think that's what it is. Like if part of the reason they drip the little cold water into it is because it becomes, like I said, the opalescent, like the inside of a seashell. Like it's very interesting. That's why I think it's part of the reason they call it the green fairy. So,
okay.
I don't know exactly what causes it. I have never looked into it, but loosh is something just is mentioned every time you get into anything that's very serious about absinthe and drinking it and savoring it and that sort of thing.
Well, Google says the definition of that is disreputable or sordid in a rakish or appealing way. And then further information, it says it describes something of questionable taste or morality.
Sounds about right.
So there you go. Yeah. So that seems like it could fit there.
I think I copied the word directly from the website that had the official recipe for it. So
okay. I wonder how that got attached to that. We'll have to look up some word history there.
Maybe like French slang or something like that. I'm assuming it's a French word. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember the YouTube channel that used to be around a long time ago called Hot for Words?
Yes, I do remember Hot for Words.
I bet Nate doesn't. Nate's probably too young to remember that.
I don't know that one.
That was early YouTube stuff, but it was I guess Russian or Ukrainian girl, very, very pretty blonde. And she took suggestions on strange words and kind of told the origins of them and that. And she was around for a while. Yeah. Popular channel there for a minute back, I guess, Jenna Marbles days and Hot for Words.
That's got to be over a decade ago, maybe more.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like 15 years ago. That's crazy long time ago. Now that you mention it.
Historical internet there. Good stuff.
I wonder what happened to Hot for Words.
To Hot for Words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Brian, we like to drink as humans. It's something that humans do. But apparently, it's not only humans out there that enjoy the occasional alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, according to a study called The Evolutionary Ecology of Ethanol, humans are not the only ones on the planet who enjoy ethanol or alcohol in general. It turns out there's an abundance of flowering plants that produce fruit and nectar, and an abundance of wild yeast that can ferment it, which means there's a lot of random alcohol out there being made all the time. It's much more abundant than the people that study these things thought previously. Most of the animals that eat these sugary fruits are going to be exposed to some level of ethanol. It's just completely unavoidable due to the nature of these things. For some species, they seem to actively seek it out. The article I read specifically mentioned vinegar flies who have evolved to metabolize ethanol very efficiently, and they prefer to lay their eggs in fermenting fruit. So they will drop off their eggs in booze, basically. So that's a good way to get started.
If humans do that, then like child services is called. So
exactly.
Humans are not allowed to do that.
I think if one of these flies drops it in water, like fly services is called to,
fly services, yeah,
come fly services, yeah, come get it. Abuse. Yeah. Anyway, apologies for the bad joke. Chimpanzees have been observed using, they call them leaf sponges to as a tool to eat fermented palm sap, even when the ethanol levels in the palm sap is to a level where it would be detectable to them and would cause them a physiological response. In short, it seems like the chimpanzees know it's going to give them a buzz. So while getting drunk, they note, is not a great survival strategy for wild animals, the speculation seems to be that the feelings of relaxation it gives is desired by these animals, and it may actually help them benefit them socially for the ones that deal in groups. So just the same way it does with humans, social gatherings, animals seem to benefit perhaps from it as well. So, yeah.
I wonder if there's like a chimpanzee hipster out there that he only likes the spontaneous alcoholic beverages from certain plants. And are there macro flowers that they're not? It's like, oh no, I don't drink those. I don't.
I imagine that the chimps do probably look down their nose on certain ones, like, oh yeah, that dandelion liquor. Now, that.
That's it.
The banana juice is the best, but the other stuff,
right?
Terrible. Yeah.
Stay away from it. I know I've seen videos of there's some. I think it's centipedes maybe that give off a secretion that is good for insect repellent, but not only that, but it's mildly toxic, and I think they said like a little bit of psychoactive properties. And these monkeys have found out that if they bite the centipede, that it gives off more of this toxin. And they said at first they thought they were just doing it to get them to get the secretion out so they could apply their insect repellent, their literal deep woods off or deep jungle off.
Jungle off.
But apparently no, they said it's also because they just like kind of tripping on centipede juice too. So
are your kids tripping on centipede juice? So,
yeah, I imagine animals are up to a lot of stuff that we just haven't recognized it, that they're doing it. And they're like, yeah, guys, way to go. We've been drinking banana liquor for years, and all. You're like, oh, we discovered that they enjoy this.
I'll bet, yeah, because in the wild, the bananas fall down, they get all black, and on the inside, like you're hungry, you eat that. It's like, I imagine it would give you a good buzz if it didn't make you really super sick. But
yeah, I've seen the ones where like a pile of apples is left and it ferments, and raccoons get into it and get lit up and stuff. But normally when you see them, they're just laid out because they went too far.
Yeah,
they did a bender and it's all over with there.
The raccoons never have known when to say when.
When to say when.
They do have the little bandit masks on, so they clearly are very irresponsible animals.
Yeah, they make it clear. No doubt. No doubt. Well, moving along from the silly jokes there on animal drinking, art is definitely something that's in the eye of the beholder. And recently there was a beer art installation that almost got tossed out.
This would have been a perfect time for art is in the eye of the beer holder. Some reference to that. Yeah, the Lamb Museum in the Netherlands was exhibiting they're calling it a recovered artwork installation that featured what looked like 2 dented Jupiler lager cans. A museum staff member saw the cans, and you can probably see where this is going, which were on display in the museum's elevator, and threw them in the garbage thinking they were trash. But they were actually 2 hand-painted reproductions of 2 dented Jupiler beer cans. Fortunately, the cans were found intact and are now on display in some more conventional space in the museum, so not in an elevator anymore. As for the staff member that threw them away, that person won't be fired. They were filling in for a staff member, and it was determined they were acting in good faith. So they thought they saw trash and were just trying to throw it away. Apparently, this museum likes to do that with art, display unexpected pieces in unexpected places. And in this case, the beer cans in the elevator was an indication of art, not of bad neighbors or bad patrons. So there you go.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. It is a little ridiculous, yeah.
I guess if the guy thought they were actual beer cans that needed to be tossed, that they must have been quality reproductions then.
Yeah. Oh, very believable. I saw a picture of them. Yeah. I didn't realize they were hand painted until I read the article. I'm like, oh, I thought somebody seriously dented some cans and then laid them in a special pattern that was meaningful for them and called it art. Now they repainted something. I don't know what the original material was, but enough to be convincing.
Yeah, because seriously, taking cans and just denting them up and laying them in an elevator, someone could definitely qualify that as a work of art. There's been crazier things that have been called artwork.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, we keep hearing about these brewery closures all over the place, and a couple of big ones this week, actually. Revolution Brewing in Chicago announced the closure of their big brew pub, right?
Yeah. Their Logan Square brew pub is closing on December 14th. That location opened nearly 15 years ago. It was their very first spot. So this is kind of a significant change for them. It's really bothering them a lot. That you can tell from the social media post on it. The reasons they give for the closure are 2 very familiar things. If you've been listening to these kinds of stories going on the past couple of years, there's increased competition from other breweries. That's a kind of a given. But there's also the reduced business following COVID. Of the 2, it sounds like the changes in consumer behavior after the pandemic shutdown is the biggest factor in the decision. The location simply never recovered the foot traffic. Those people just aren't showing up anymore. 20 full-time people and 20 part-time employees will be laid off as a result of the closure. Revolution will continue to operate the production brewery and tap room on Kedzie Avenue, and I think the article mentioned that they bought the property, so they're not likely going anywhere, but they are consolidating. So you don't have to worry about them. I don't think they own their spot and they should be good for the foreseeable future. But you have a little over a month left if you would like to visit the original location. For anybody who has got nostalgia for that, I've never been, and unfortunately, it looks like I never will. But yeah, it's
beers
sad,
are good though.
Nonetheless. Yeah, the ones I've had have been great. Yeah,
do some good stuff. Yeah, and then one a little closer to home here, Brian, Asheville, that, as we all know, really took a pounding with a hurricane that came through here recently. And this one's kind of surprised to me. I kind of thought they were a staple, but Wicked Weed closes their Funkatorium, and with a big question mark on it that says temporarily, but I had heard indefinitely. So I guess those can be interpreted different ways.
Yeah. So as I read into the article, it's kind of unclear what the future is really going to be. But yeah, they were in the process of reopening that spot after Tropical Storm Helene, but they abruptly canceled their plans to reopen. I want to say it was earlier this week or maybe the tail end of last week. But yeah, an estimated 30 to 40 employees were told they were laid off effective immediately as a result. And I think we'd been there maybe a long time ago. They actually added a restaurant and all that stuff to it. So it was a pretty big thing. Apparently there are still plans to reopen the Funkatorium at some point in the future because the staff that were let go were told they could reapply for their jobs when it reopens. But there's no information as to when that might happen. So the indefinitely is very relevant here. And you also don't fire your staff if you're planning to reopen in a month or maybe or two. So even before the storm damage shut down the Funkatorium, the establishment was seeing light foot traffic, and it was going into what is expected to be a very slow winter season. My speculation is it probably means they will stay closed until at least spring and possibly summer, depending on how things go. But there are 2 other Wicked Weed tap rooms that have since reopened, and I think some of the people who weren't laid off were transferred over to those. So if you're looking for your Wicked Weed fix, you still have opportunities in Asheville to get that fixed, addressed. So,
when they sold to AB InBev, it was a big deal at the time. Not just breweries sell all the time, but at the time that they sold, they were kind of considered, they were craft beer. Wicked Weed looked at that and just really didn't think they could sell. Right after they sold, one of the owners did a video with, I believe it was called The High End, AB InBev's craft division, and was kind of he was kind of playing this, hey, we all need to get along thing with the craft brewers, and that just did a big 180. For me personally, it left a bad taste in my mouth. Like they kind of did a 180 really quick on things, and I haven't purchased or consumed a Wicked Weed beer since, just to be just because. But I had talked to some of the other brewers and other people in Asheville, and that it was kind of a permanent thing. That's with them being very craft beer centric in Asheville, it wasn't something that people blew off or didn't know about. They still got their traffic in that, but I heard that there were lasting effects, because that's one thing that I always wondered is when a brewery sells, people can be very verbal about the fact that they sold, but does that last? Is it something that people continue if they really liked a brewery? Do they stop supporting them? And I know that had that story a couple weeks ago where it said people do it's definitely confirmed that it does make a difference if their brewery sells out. But Wicked Weed was a big one there.
I don't know how long term that is. It's definitely in the short term. My recollection of it was there was a little bit more of a condescending, you need to get over it type of thing in the address made by the owner after the fact, which is part of the reason. There was a little bit of a, you guys know what you're talking about, you need to get over it type of thing, which was particularly unpleasant to people who were excited about them. They were, when I went to, man, this has got to be 2012, 11, I don't even know, but they when they first came into Georgia and showed up at beer festivals, I had a beer buddy's like, you need to get over there and try that Wicked Weed stuff. That's amazing. They're fantastic. It's wonderful. Like, the second coming of beer or whatever. Like, all right, I need to get over there.
Yeah, they were for sure.
It was very exciting, and they were the first, kind of the first taste of like selling out that we ever saw. Like, and it was a rough one. It was a bit of a sting, that happened. And I still have some of them, but I had a lot of bottles before that happened. I had all the Angels and things like that. And it's that was cold water thrown on me when that happened. And I've really not gone back and had any of it. I think I've opened up a few of my old bottles and drank them, but aside from that, I
went to Asheville for a couple of those Angel releases. I think me and Smalls went up one time, and I think we played the mules there, like those that couldn't make it up for the trip, kind of like, let me get, a couple of this, couple of that. So, we went up, and I don't remember if it was allotted or not, but I think we got like 2 cases of one of the Angel releases there, and did kind of, some of the other thing. And then I think, Brian, there was another time that you were with, like we took a whole group up there for one of their releases.
Yeah, I want to say we went twice, and I remember that. And you know what? That was a good time. I like the beers a lot. It's a really different era where the sour, the super sour, bracingly sour was sought after. The wilder, weirder, and funkier it was sought after. And nobody had ever even heard of a fruited kettle sour. That wasn't even a thing back then. So everything that was in there was like the fruit that had gone, had developed, or the aged hops that had developed, and any fruity character you got was from wild, yeast and bacteria creating those things. So it was a really interesting time. They were great beers, I as I recall. So
I have a picture of me getting stink eye from another patron at the Funkatorium, because they had they were lambic boards. I don't remember exactly how it was fashioned, but it held the board for anyone who doesn't know, that doesn't drink lambics. There's a lambic basket that basically lets you serve your beer horizontally, or mostly horizontally on an angle, so you can pour it in a more controlled manner and not get the trube up off of the bottom. Well, when you ordered a bottle of the wild stuff there, or the spontaneous mixed culture beers, they would serve it to you on a board. And I remember picking up the board and just tipping the board and drinking out of the bottle from the board. And in the background of the picture, there's a lady that is thoroughly disgusted with my behavior there. So
I knew there was something like that. I think you may have splashed some of it on yourself in the process, but I get that confused with the time.
No, that was the Mexican cake.
Yeah, I get that confused with the Mexican cake, where you attempted to drink 2 bottles at the same time and
that's a great
one of them. So
classic
quality, quality material.
Since I have quit doing stupid level drinking, my photogenic opportunities have really just fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, when you drink responsibly, nobody wants to see those pictures.
No one.
It's not interesting
sad.
at all.
Totally sad, man.
Very sad. Yes.
You know, to go back to this, not just the Funkatorium and that, but I really hope Asheville in general recovers. I mean, we're already in a tough time here after COVID, beer drinking down in general. So it just a triple whammy there, with people drinking less, people going out less really after COVID, not going out as much. And then the tropical storm runs through there. It just really a triple decker on them. When other places are facing 1 or 2 of these issues, they really get hit. And it's such a great place, man. Such a fun town, not just the beer, but it's just a very chill place to go. And so we're still thinking about you and rooting for you, Asheville. Hopefully
I'm still buying Highwire and Highland beers whenever I see them.
Get them all, man. Get them all.
Just to help them out. I know they're having issues. We don't get a lot of the stuff down here, but we get some of it. And I know both of those, especially Highwire, I think has had some real trouble. So when I can find it, it's what I can find, I do drink. And I encourage other people to, drink a little bit of it, help them out, keep them going. So
we should see which of the breweries there ship. I think Burial, maybe. Can anybody verify that? But maybe we get us some of their skillet donut out there.
If they ship some of it down here as a kind of a rescue skillet donut, I'll buy up every bit of it. I love that stuff. That's rescue donut. Yeah, exactly.
And keep an eye out at your local breweries now. I'm forgetting the name. I should have looked it up, but the thought just came into my head. I saw Variant did one. There is the beer that brewers are doing for the Asheville Relief. And Nate, can you hit the Google real quick for Variant or Facebook and see, so we can share that info?
Sure.
But they did
on a previous show too.
Yeah, we did. So I know they were having an initiative where it was like, hey, to make this happen as quick as possible, just dedicate any tap to it. You don't have to do that. But there is a beer that's coming out that's specifically for that. And I know the first brewery that I've seen in our area that's actually done it is Variant, but I believe others are doing the same on that. So keep an eye out for that beer.
Yeah.
On an aside, Dissolver, this isn't actually in our list of articles for tonight, but Dissolver launches a collaboration beer to support Asheville's rebranding or rebuilding. I'm sorry. So it's similar to like what Sierra Nevada did after the campfire from a few years ago. It's a nationwide collaboration project based on a hazy IPA recipe, where proceeds, the beer is called Higher Calling, and the proceeds will go towards the North Carolina Craft Brewers Fund, which is a 501c3. And then also for Burial, they do deliver directly to Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, North Carolina, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
There you go.
Okay,
get your barrier bills, help them out. And Higher Calling is the one that Variant did. So it is.
It's a Higher Calling. Okay.
So
I think that they had it set up so they were just saying, designate a tap, and like a $1 a beer or something like that, like some number of the proceeds to participate in it. Send that, so you have a tap of any of your beers that you're serving. So you don't have to brew. You don't have to brew a new one. You can just do whatever you have and just donate some amount of the proceeds from that. So I haven't come across. I can't say I've been to all the breweries recently, so I haven't come across one yet. But I hear so Variant's making a special beer for it. I would definitely drink one of those, off of whatever tap it is. So yeah, you want to get a beer moving quick, put that on it. I'll come in and drink some of it.
Brian's there for you.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I'm there
Brian,
to help you out.
Before we move along, how about we give a shout out to our amazing sponsors, Truck and Tap?
Yeah. So from one day to the next, I can't be sure what to expect with this weather. It's been weird. Will it be warm and sunny? Sometimes it is. T-shirt and patio weather. Will it be cool, dark, jacket weather? Because those cooler days have me, reaching for different beers than the warm, sunny ones. And I had straight up fog that you couldn't even see 5 feet through a couple days ago. The great thing about Truck and Tap is they have 20 beers on tap to choose from. So whatever the weather, whatever your mood, they'll have a beer that will fit the bill. And sticking to my theme of not being able to pick a beer theme, here are my beer picks for the week at Truck and Tap Woodstock. My pick is Creature Comfort's Whale Fall IPA. It's a bold, herbal, and citrusy IPA. And if that's not enough reason for you to get a pour, and it might not be, I don't know, depending on what you think about IPAs, a portion of the proceeds go to the Berkeley Hainan Environmental Foundation, which has a focus on protecting marine environments. So you'll feel good about the beer you're drinking. At the Duluth location, I'm going with Reformation Cadence, which is a Belgian double. It's been a while since I've had a Belgian double, and on these cooler, darker days like today, the style sounds really appealing. Also, ordering a Reformation beer from Truck and Tap in November helps them raise funds for their November charity drive. And I think that's all locations, but you might have to check that on their website. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, I'm going with another Belgian-style beer. This time it's Avery's White Rascal, which is an unfiltered wit beer made with coriander and curacao orange peels, because why not? Haven't had a wit beer in a long time, so I'm down for that. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I can't pass up Three Taverns Sour Asylum Sapporous, which is hard to say. As you can probably tell from the name, it's a fruited sour ale, and it happens to be my favorite Sour Asylum beer. It's made with passion fruit and guava, and of course, lactose, because it has to be. It gets a pass, though. It's such a great beer. I really love this one. I haven't had one in probably over a year, maybe longer. If you'd like to make some of your own picks or plan out your next visit to Truck and Tap, visit truckandtap.com. That's where you'll find out what's pouring at each location, what food trucks will be there when you visit, and what events will be happen, and just all sorts of other useful and interesting information. That's truckandtap.com, and thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. We appreciate it. Brian, you mentioned a beer called Whale Fall. Are you familiar with the term whale fall?
No, I don't know what that means.
So a whale fall is when a whale dies and falls to the bottom of the ocean floor, and the ecosystem support that it gives with that huge carcass being on the bottom of the ocean floor. And there's a lot of focus on taking care of the ecosystems because of how important this is to happen, because it can provide nourishment and food and other enrichment to the area for decades, literally. So, they said it can be a food source for years. And then, some of the animals that like attach to rocks and bones and that come in and create another, part of that environment. There's, look, I should say, might be telling, but I have been watching a bunch of YouTube documentaries lately on various marine life things.
On whales. Okay.
Recent education on that. But yeah, so it's like a really big thing. There's a lot of those deep sea dwelling sea creatures that they don't get much food. And there's another, I forget what it's called. It's something snow or something like that, but it's honestly like food particulate and waste matter from the animals higher up in the water level that feed these bottom dwellers in the deep sea. But a whale fall is a very important thing and very beneficial to marine life. So there you go, man. There you go.
I had no idea. I should have looked it up because I thought it was a really unusual name, and that it just didn't occur to me to look into it, because usually it seems like Creature Comforts, they give a lot of thought to everything they do in beer. So obviously the name probably has some deeper, more interesting meaning, especially if it's a charity beer. So okay, that's really cool. I had no idea.
But beers also just get random weird names, so there's just no telling if it's something meaningful or if there's a deeper, something just a random name they pick out. I knew a beer named Gas Can Viking Helmet at one time, and it was literally named because those were the first two items the brewers saw when they made the beer.
Sure, there's not some deeper meaning.
That's it, man. Right on the surface
memory.
there. Right
That's what I heard.
on the surface there. Well, Brian, moving along with our news info, taxes, brewers and taxes, man, everywhere. And not just American brewers that face that, but the French craft brewers are having a little tax issue right now.
Yeah, we've seen French, the beer industry in France, like showing up in the news a fair amount recently, which is interesting. But and the latest information, I found out that France's latest budget, which was currently being debated by their parliament, includes proposals to increase taxes on alcoholic beverages and sweetened drinks. And brewers are kind of worried about it. The proposals would specifically target high gravity or quote unquote sweetened beers, but may end up, depending on whose proposal gets accepted, it may end up hitting beers with any ABV above 5.5%, which isn't very high gravity. Taxes would also apply to any beer found to have more than 20 grams of sugar per liter. So one brewer estimates the additional taxes would add 70 cents per bottle of their lager, or an additional €4.20 to the price of a 6-pack. I did that math just myself. Of course, targeting high gravity beers in general would necessarily help lower ABV macro brands at the expense of craft beer brands, which tend to have higher ABVs. Under the current system and what's happening right now, these kinds of taxes only apply to beverages with an ABV greater than 18%. The funds raised by the taxes would go to reduce the nation's sizable deficit related to Social Security, and proponents also say it will help reduce excessive alcohol consumption, especially among young people who are drawn to sweet, stronger drinks. So their young people are drinking different stuff than our young people, because
there are. Yeah.
I don't think that our youth are really into like the super boozy, kind of basically malt liquor kind of stuff that we might have consumed as younger folks. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's part of this generation, but I mean, I remember getting like a 40-ounce Old English for like $1.35 at one time. So, for $3, you can get pretty turnt if that was your goal there. And, if someone is going out just to get schnockered, though, they're not going to be going after an expensive beer. And that, the higher you going there. But $4.20 added to a 6-pack, that's substantial. They're talking a lager here, 5.5%, 70 cents added to a bottle of lager. That's a good chunk.
That's significant. And that's the thing. I'm like, if you kind of pitch it as like, oh, it's only another 70 cents a bottle, but okay, well, that's not too bad. But yeah, when you look at it, the price of your 6-pack, that's a huge deal. Like that's worth being concerned about. Not because people, couldn't afford it. They would. I think they're just going to stop buying that and just go get the cheaper macro produced stuff that's going to always be under that threshold. And so it's kind of a weird, it's going to hurt the craft people is what it's going to do. It's going to really help, like, and AB InBev and all those sorts of like macro, producers bringing in beers. They'll just adjust. They'll do what they did in the UK. They'll adjust their ABVs down to avoid the taxes, to avoid the costs. So there'll be shrinkflation, and there'll be, everybody else will just have inflation, and it's gonna screw up their scene. We don't know for sure if this is going to happen, and there's an uproar about it. I figured I'd put it out there in case anybody gets over there.
Every state should just remove ABV caps on beers and just do bracketed taxes at the ABV. And then if we want to get a big old 20% stout, we know the price to play, basically. So it's something where you remove these restrictions on the brewers. It's like, sure, you can do this, and if you want this beer, you got to pay the price. They're going to be expensive anyhow. People going after those kind of beers, it's definitely going to hit it. But the guy drinking the lager 6-packs like on the regular, $4.20 may mess up his beer budget, man. It could really screw things up there.
And that's the thing. A craft lager very likely could be 5.5 or 5.6 or something like that. It's still not super boozy, but it's got a little extra flavor, a little extra content to it. And now I can't even imagine with the barrel aged beers and all that what the taxes will be like, because they're going to check for sugar in that stuff, and they're going to really, really slam it, I think, pretty hard if it's found to be beyond I forget what it was, 20 grams of sugar per liter. So I think that some of our beers are very easily crossed that line. Now, I don't know if France is drinking like we're drinking, with their barrel.
They just have to ferment them really, really dry, I guess.
And
that's
I'd have
to sit down and think, because it's been a minute since I've brewed, but put a bunch of sugar in there and get a 20% really dry beer, but no sugar in there or little. I guess
that's where you need your long boil.
Taxes.
Get your long boil in there to get the some of the extra mouthfeel and richness before you dry it way out. So
yeah, crazy stuff. Well, Brian, Asia, if you don't know, a lot of the countries in Asia, 7-Eleven is like a cool place. It's like they sell a lot of convenience food, and apparently the convenience food at some of the Asian 7-Elevens is actually pretty good stuff, that they get over there. But they've done different beers that you get at 7-Eleven exclusives and that. And on that note, there's actually another collaboration coming up involving a coffee beer with a twist.
Yeah. So this is specifically in Hong Kong, and 7-Eleven is collaborating with a group called Maxim's Group. It sounds familiar, but I don't know who that is. They're on a new craft beer that's being made from upcycled coffee grounds. So the coffee grounds are being sourced from the daily operations of 7 Cafe, which is a cafe that operates in 7-Eleven 11s throughout Asia. Like you were saying, it's kind of like, I guess
it's cool, man. It's
fast, cool. Like not a fast food, but just like a casual cafe hangout type of place. And I went and looked at a website, and they even showed you the chef that works there and everything. Like, oh wow, they're really fancy. But anyway, they're calling the beer Coffee Bob, and the Bob part is actually an acronym that stands for Bottle of Bread. It's part of a series, this Bob is, of beers that use surplus bread and crusts in the place of traditional barley. So far, the Bob series has upcycled 3.5 tons of bread and around 600 pounds of coffee grounds to make these beers. Now, as to whether or not the beer is any good, there's really no way to know at this point, at least not for me. I didn't see any entries for it in Untapped, and I think this coffee variety is fairly new. I think it's just getting announced, so it may not actually be available yet. I believe there's a pale ale version that just uses the surplus bread to be made. I do see it's being sold online, and maybe it's a pre-order. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like a bottle of that's going to cost you around $7 US for about just under 12 ounces. Like it's a 330 milliliter bottle. So it's kind of a specialty. It looks like it's being treated as like a very specialty beer. You buy one of. It doesn't seem to be like a 6-pack type of beer, but I'm not 100% sure how reputable the website is that I saw that being sold on. So we'll see.
I love hearing that this is just like the leftovers. They're making it like a special release, but it's like we're using leftover bread and some old coffee grounds. There's some water that was left in the toilet at the end of the day.
Yes, that's right.
So we just threw that in there. Now there is a style, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. Is it kvass? That brewed? It's brewed with bread, right?
Yeah, it's like rye bread, right?
Yeah.
You put it in water, and I think it's just. Is that the one that's just naturally fermented? You put it in water with a little bit of, a little bit of sugar.
That probably sounds right, because if bread is baked, I don't think it'll have any live yeast in it, will it? I think you get the sugars from that.
I think you just get.
I don't know.
I think that what you got was whatever microbes are in the air, and you get lightly fermented. If I'm remembering if it's the one I'm thinking of, you get it together, and I don't remember all the preparation. I think you give a little sweetener for things to chew on. You put it all together, you throw like a raisin in it or something like that, and then you bottle it up and you put it in the fridge. And I think you're supposed to let it sit, or maybe you still let it sit on the counter like 24 hours. And basically over the course of a very short period of time, you get something that's very, very effervescent, but also very likely alcoholic. And it's actually not a bad beverage.
Like low alcohol. That's kids beer or whatever they call it.
The Kinder beer.
Yeah.
That sounds weird to say.
I'd try it, man. Yeah, I think good stuff.
Wasn't part of the whole thing is you had to wait for the raisin to float to the top?
I don't think that was kvass. That was that stuff that we did that was the like Norwegian holiday carnival beer that was honey and I can't remember the name of that.
I'm getting them confused then. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
It's been like 10 years since we did it. That was good. I think that was like within the I think it was like within the space of two days at the most.
2 to 3 days. It wasn't long. Yeah.
If you did any longer than that, it would actually explode if you tried to open it.
Yeah.
We were using the old swing top bottles, and I had a few that shot off and hit the ceiling when I opened them up. So yeah, you had to be careful with those.
And that, I know that it was supposed to be something that they served at, was it like May Day festivities or something like that?
But I think you're right. Yeah.
You had that bottle of whatever that low alcohol fermented beverage was called. And then I think they said it was best served with some kind of pastry. And we couldn't get whatever the specific pastry was. So I think we got like donut holes from Dunkin' or something to pair it up.
Or was that sometimes we got coffee cake? No, the coffee cake was for the coffee ale from Boulevard.
It was, and that was really good. Yeah. That was a great pairing there.
Yeah, man, I missed that.
It was an almond coffee cake and Boulevard's coffee ale, and an accidental finding that it just happened to be what we had at the time, and they paired so well together. I think we actually made an effort to have that pairing a couple more times, see what we could do.
I went out of my way, and that's back in the days of when 750 bottles were, really, really prevalent, really readily available. And I did actually go back and buy all of the 750s of coffee ale I could find. And sadly, my cellar does have a lot of old stuff in it, but sadly, I think we did finally drink up all of those. And at this point in time, because that would have been back 2013, 2014, it probably wouldn't be very good if I had it anyway. But I think
long ago.
I think they've re-released that a few times. So that and Harvest Dance are the two that I always keep hoping to see from Boulevard.
Oh, that was good, man. I miss the seeing the old wheat wines out and stuff. Barley. Yeah. I mean, we still see a good amount of barley wines, but I enjoyed the wheat wines. I think it was Pilgrim's Dole, I think, from New Holland was a wheat wine, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and that was always a good one to get a hold of when it came around. I haven't seen that in forever.
I actually looked for it earlier this year because I was reminded of it for some reason. I think I crossed paths with a wheat wine recently, and it got me thinking about, hey, this used to be something that you never saw a lot of, but you saw more of than you do now. And I think that once upon a time, I think a lot of breweries were more experimental back in the day. It was more likely you might randomly see somebody make that. And I think now a lot, but just because it's what pays the bills, you're going to find people making lagers. Maybe they get a little experimental with the lagers, and you're going to find them making hazy IPAs or maybe West Coast IPAs.
Hazy. Brian,
and not a lot else. Yeah.
The low alcohol drink that we made was called SEMA. SIMA.
Right.
SEMA. And it's a Finnish spring mead or Finnish lemon mead that they make it, but I remember it had the lemon honey. It wasn't a ton. I think there's even versions out there that don't even use honey. You just use like sugar.
Oh yeah,
sugar, lemon, a couple raisins that you look to rise up in the glass, and that was that.
I must have come across this recently because I typed it into my browser real quick, and it immediately brought up our recipe from back in the day.
Oh, wow.
So we used 1.85 gallons of water, 1.1 pounds of honey, 1.1 pounds of brown sugar, 1 lemon, 10 grams of hops. So we actually added hops to this.
We hopped it. Okay.
Yeah. A quarter of a teaspoon of yeast. So we added yeast to it. We didn't let the wild stuff. We got the raisins and we got the sugar. That is wild. Okay. Yeah.
And I remember it being more like a soft drink,
kind of.
You didn't. I mean, there wasn't a lot of booziness to it. I mean, of course, if you're getting fermentation, there's a little bit of alcohol there. But again, you're waiting 2 or 3 days, and that's it. So,
and that's the thing. If you're concerned about it, because it's considered, we wrote down it as a quick mead. If you're thinking mead, oh man, that's going to be a little sweet. It dried out a lot.
It did. It was pretty tart, pretty dry and tart.
Man, that's you could make that every week as you kind of like with a champagne brunch drink, just make it for Sunday and then make your next batch for the next Sunday. Just keep it in the fridge and just be careful when you open it. So yeah, that's good stuff, man. Yeah. I want to do that again.
That was fun, man. We dabbled in a lot of various beverages. I remember before we ever started brewing beer, I made prison hooch. And I used
remember that.
I took like an old Hawaiian seed jug and I put a can of fruit cocktail in there and like a couple leftover refrigerator biscuits or hot dog buns and did that. I think I put ketchup in there. They say to put a little ketchup in, just in case there's anyone's wondering. I mean, actually, when it was all said and done and I let it set for a while, it was truly horrendous.
Okay, it was truly bad. Was it alcoholic though? Was there any booze? I don't think I ever tasted it. I knew you did.
Well, so for my fermentation control, I put a balloon over the lid of the thing and it inflated the balloon. It didn't like blow it up, but it filled it with air. So there was fermentation, which means there was some alcohol in there. When I finally tasted it, I filtered it through a clean sock like you're supposed to.
Of course.
And it tasted like bile. Like if you ever get that. So it tasted like bile with unsweetened like pineapple and cherries. So if that is a flavor you enjoy, then I recommend that. I mean, if you're in prison, so maybe add the ketchup after it's done to back sweeten it.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. It's like, this seems like it's a Malort chaser or maybe a mixer for Malort. Like
chasing Malort for the worst drink ever. It's kind of like what it was. But yeah. And I imagine that people who may be doing, 20 to life or whatever may have a little more refined process for their prison huge. But my first batch, it was unpleasant. I
wonder if there's anybody out there that's making truly fine, like people taste it, like this toilet wine is marvelous.
Like he's got a little cellar set up behind a brick in his cell. He's got vintages and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, the 2019. Oh, it was a lovely year.
They make the ramen in the bag of potato chips thing that they make there, like that they cook in the bag and they put that out and would you like the 2023 prison hooch there? So
that'll be 5 packs of cigarettes. 5. It is the best, and it's very limited, sir.
The terroir is very good. It is very
good terroir. On
the terroir,
yeah. I mean, there's got to be guys that have dialed it in a little bit to where it's not horrendous, but I don't know who the guy making the best prison wine is.
Somebody's just an artiste, and
just an artiste, man. Just an artiste.
Good loves to kill people. Also loves to make alcohol in a toilet. So,
that's
two things, two passions in life.
Multifaceted, this murderer is. Indeed. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up for the show this week. We appreciate you, as always, coming and hanging out with us. If you like what we're doing here, we would love for you to support us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. We'll get you in the Discord server so you can chat with us about all things beer and not beer. And at the end of the show, we do the after party where we invite all of our Patreon supporters to come hang out with us. We'll send you some cool swag. And most of all, we'll just really appreciate the fact that you did that. But either way, thanks for hanging out. Have a great week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers.